Let me first start by giving honor to the shepherd of this house, Pastor Mark Coward, who allows us to come together and do some of the things that we've been able to do over the last 2 years now. And so grateful to have a leader that is willing to talk about these things that, quite honestly, most people in the church, or at least most pastors, would cower from. No pun. So we appreciate you. Thank you, sir. All right, so listen, the topic, the Electoral College, can be kind of daunting, and I'm going to go through a lot of information to hopefully help make it simple. That's my goal, is to make the Electoral College simple, and when I can't do it, thank goodness my partner in crime, Ed, is sitting here, and he'll correct anything I get wrong. So please give Ed a hand. All right, so let's get into it. I know there's some folks who are watching online because there are people in other states that I've had contact with that said they want to be a part of this and hear what's being said. And so the Electoral College and why we should keep it. All right, who's ever seen a map like this? Everyone who's taken part in the Understanding the Constitution group has seen something similar. For the sake of time, I want you to understand any one of those numbers that is less than the number 6, on average, has less than 2 million voters in it. Okay? Keep that in mind. And I'm going to really try and drive this home. If you know how the Electoral College works, it is why part of the reason I tell people that taking part in the census is really important, in particular in this state, because this state has seen an explosion of people coming into it. Well, our representation is determined by our population. Roughly every House rep represents roughly 710,000 people, okay? And so it's important that we make sure we take part in the census. I'm gonna bring up a couple quotes. Who was here the last time I spoke? If you were here the last time I spoke, raise your hand. All right, I started to tell about the fact that there's two things that drive me up a wall when I hear one of our elected officials say it, and I didn't actually get to close that loop, so I'm gonna do that now. So who can tell me what was the thing I actually did talk about that drives me up a wall last time? Who remembers? Say it again. We are a democracy. And we're trying to save the democracy. Drives me up a wall. We are not. Say it with me. We are not a. We are a. Thank you. We're a constitutional republic. Now, I didn't get to tell the second thing, but I am going to this one's free. The other thing that drives me up a wall is when I hear one of our elected officials say that the branches are equal. We're co-equal branches. We're equal. Listen, if you want to know more about why that drives me up a wall, please take part in the class. I'm not going to go into it now, but understand they are not equal. So a couple quotes really quick as I talked about democracy, our democracy. The purpose of the Constitution is to restrict the majority's ability to harm a minority, not, someone black, not necessarily a minority group, okay? So the Constitution is put in place, and the manner in which it is drawn up is to make sure that the majority can't just overrun the minority. Thomas Jefferson said that a democracy is nothing more than mob rule. Did we hear something like this last time I spoke? It's nothing more than mob rule where 51% of the people may take away the rights of the other 49. If we were a pure democracy, this is what you would see. It would be mob rule. So, to help me out and to make this point maybe a little more apparent for some, I've asked for some assistance. So I would love it if my helper would come on up to the stage. Got a young man who's gonna help me out. I want you guys to, when you see him, I want you to give him a big hand because he's a brave soul to get up in front of all of you. So come on up. Yeah, sorry. Some would say if someone would say if I had a son, he'd probably look. Never mind. Never mind. All right, come on in. Come on in. I want to make sure they get you on camera. So I'm going to ask you some questions, but first, let's make sure we introduce you. What's your name?
Israel,
Israel. Israel, how old are you?
7.
7. I'm going to prove that even a 7-year-old can get this. Okay, Israel, do you like? All right, yeah. Do you like games or sports?
Yes.
What's your favorite sport?
Basketball.
Basketball. It's been an interesting time in basketball. We won't go into that, but you prefer that there be a winner and a loser, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to bring up 3 pictures. Okay, I want you to look at them, and I'm going to ask you which color won. Okay, you ready? All right, go ahead and look at the screen. Look up there. Look up there. So you can't see one of them, but that small one is purple. Tell me which color won. Which color is superior, green or purple?
Green.
Green. Okay, good job. All right, here comes another one. Same question. There's purple and green. Which color won?
Purple.
Purple. All right, last one. You ready? All right, which color won?
Green.
Green. Let's give it up for our 7-year-old scholar of the Constitution, Israel. Thank you, Israel. Go on. I don't want anybody to think I was going to kidnap him because he's got a parent in the room. So, all right, so Israel pointed out there were 3 slides, right? And 2 of them, green was clearly the winner. And in one of them, purple was clearly, kind of clear, was the winner. But you could tell it's the winner, right? Okay. So let's look at the first one. Now, sorry, it didn't transfer the best way, but these 2 colors are red and blue. There are 3,141 counties in the United States. Did anybody else out here know that? 3,141. There's probably a few people that knew. Now understand, this is not a promotion of Trump. What this is a promotion of the Electoral College, because the truth is 2016, in my estimation, is one of the greatest examples of why we should have the Electoral College, okay? 2016 is a glaring example. So in 2016, there's 3,141 counties. Trump, now President Trump, won 3,084 of those 3,141 counties. I'm going to drive this home. Trust me. Let's go to the next one that our scholar Israel talked about. So this is actually kind of a picture of what that looked like. All that red this is broken down in counties. And I want you to pay attention to where the blue is. Okay, here's our next one. There were 128,824,246 votes cast in 2016. Now, we are all aware that Mrs. Clinton won the popular vote. So I'm gonna break some of that down. Trump had 62,979,636 of those votes. Hillary Clinton had 65,844,610 of those votes. So she won the popular vote. We'll just round up and call it 2.9 million votes is what she won the popular vote by. Okay? Last one that our scholar looked at was the Electoral College. So you've got 538 electoral college votes. And again, then there are parts of this I'm not going to get into the weeds on because there's really a lot that we could go into about the electorates and all that, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna keep it simple tonight. So of the 538 electoral college votes, Trump won 306 of them. Hillary won 232. Now I want you to kind of bring together that whole county thing, because it's important to understand. When we talk about the Electoral College and why it exists, because it's easy for someone to tell you every vote should count. One person, one vote. And there's probably some people in the room right now that say, yeah, that makes sense to me. There should be one person, one vote. Except when they formed this nation, they wanted a way for the people to be represented and the states to be represented, right? So we wanted to make sure that there was a weight and measure. The founders wanted to make sure there was a weight and measure to not just benefit the most populous states. Keep in mind, at that time, there was no California, there was no Texas, there was no Illinois, okay? They had Massachusetts, New York, Virginia, and you saw the Electoral College map earlier. I can tell you, Massachusetts doesn't have a whole lot of weight in the electoral process, but they do have weight. So this is what our electoral map, as they like to call it, looked like in 2016. Now, there are 6 what we would call highly populated states. Who wants to name one? Just yell it out. Everyone says California is always the first place people go. California, where else? Texas. I heard New York. Florida. Come on, what's the last one? Oh, there's 2 more. That's right. Illinois and Pennsylvania. So those 6 states, let's just talk about those 6 states. The 6 largest states, which we all just named, consisted of 47,168,247 of all votes cast in 2016. That is approximately 37% of all votes cast. 6 states represented 37% of all votes cast in the 2016 election. But those 6 states only represent 12% of all states. Okay? I'm going to use a lot of numbers because I like numbers. That is huge to consider. 6 states control 37% of the voting. So we've got something happening in our state that some of you may have heard of. It's going to be on our ballot. 15 states plus Washington, D.C. has already signed up and are part of the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. We, Colorado, is one of those 15 states. However, in November, on our ballot, we're going to have the opportunity to actually overturn what our legislature did in 2019. That deserves. There was a lot of petitioning that went on to get this on the ballot. And listen, I'm going to tell you the evil of this referendum if I haven't made it somewhat clear already. If you vote yes, then you are saying that Colorado is willing to be part of this pact, this compact. I'll call it a pact because that's what it feels like. That Colorado's ready to be part of this compact. That would run the current electoral college number up to 194 for the 15 states plus Washington, D.C. that is represented. Can anyone tell me the number of electoral college votes they need in order to enact this nationally? 270. And right now, our 9 is part of that 194. So, won't hurt for us to get our 9 out of that group. So let's explain how this works. This compact, it basically says that if the popular vote, so again, we'll use 2016, right? Hillary won the popular vote by 2.9 million votes. We're going to break that down in a second. But if the person that wins the popular vote will automatically receive our Electoral College votes. So understand this. In the Constitution, it talks about the fact that states can choose the manner in which they disperse their Electoral College votes. That's why in Nebraska, actually in the last 2 elections, which is pretty cool, in Nebraska and Maine, they have the ability to actually split their vote. So in 2012, Nebraska actually split its vote, and so some went to Mitt Romney and some went to President Obama. In 2016, it was Maine's turn, and they split their vote, and they gave 3 of their Electoral College votes to Hillary and 1 that went to Trump. That was based on how it was done within their own districts in their state. But all the other states basically cast all of their Electoral College votes to the winner of that state. And basically what this says is the founders never could have fathomed, they could have never imagined that a state's choice would be to not choose. So let's say, I love this, I like to use this example. Let's say Colorado in 2016, the popular vote, that's why your vote matters, because your vote goes to your state, and it causes your state to give its representation within the Electoral College. So let's say in 2016 that now President Trump had actually won the popular vote in the state of Colorado. It's for sake of argument. We know it didn't happen, but let's say that had happened. And Hillary, having won the popular vote with 2.9 million more votes than him, would have muted what we as a people in the state of Colorado had actually chosen. We chose Trump, but now all of our Electoral College votes are going to go to, or would have gone to, Hillary. The same is true for every state that this has occurred. And I'm going to read them off to you. So if you know someone in one of these states, you need to alert your friends, because they too should be working to get it overturned. Of course, 2019 was Colorado, Delaware, New Mexico, and Oregon. I'm pretty sure there's someone in this room that knows someone from New Mexico. All right, 2018, Connecticut. 2016, New York. Now here's what's interesting. New York actually they renewed theirs, but then made it infinitely renewed. So they are forever part of the Interstate Compact. And they passed theirs originally in 2014. In 2013, Rhode Island. 2011, California and Vermont. 2010, Massachusetts and Washington, D.C. 2009, Washington, the state of Washington. 2008, Hawaii and Illinois. 2007, Maryland and New Jersey. Now, there's some other things interesting about every one of those states, and I won't go into it, but they've all signed onto this pact. I am telling you, as Coloradans, whatever it is you can do, help me stop this. Last time I spoke, I used the scripture, it was Deuteronomy 1:13, and God instructed Moses to choose from among you. If we stay as a part of this pact, we have forfeited our right to choose. And I am not talking about abortion. I am talking about we may as well be aborting, right? Because we're going to forfeit our right to choose. So let's break down 2 states. All right, so We already mentioned the fact that there's these 6 large states. State of New York in 2016, 4,556,124 votes went to Clinton. 2,819,534 went to now President Trump. New York City and its 5 counties, one city makes up 5 counties, 1,969,920 of its votes went to Clinton, while 461,174 went to Trump. That just in the city of New York, that was a difference of 1.5 million. We'll round. That's fair? We'll round? All right. That same year, 2016, California, this number should knock you on the floor. The fact that California had nearly 11 million total votes cast in California. 7,382,400 of those went to Hillary, 3,916,209 of those went to now President Trump. Los Angeles, and magically, how many counties does LA have? 5. Los Angeles and its 5 counties, 3,272,465 went to Clinton, 1,775,194 went to now President Trump. Again, remember what I said. This is not about Trump, nor is it definitely not about Biden. But the truth is, 2016 was the best example of why we should keep the Electoral College. That's a difference of, we'll round again, and I'll actually round down, 1.4 million. Does anyone remember how many votes President Trump lost the popular vote by? 2 point. It's magic. How does that work? 2.9. Okay, I'm not a genius. Ed's a genius. I'm not a genius. I don't pretend to be one. But what I've learned is, let's say we decide and choose not to choose. Here are just some of the cities that will choose for us. Well, we already know 2 of them with their 5 counties each. Chicago, Miami, Houston, Dallas, San Francisco, if it doesn't burn to the ground. Anybody want to shout out another one? Atlanta, Seattle. It is literally a large city election. Every election will be a large city election. So, is there anyone in the room that is here from Pueblo or has lived in Pueblo? Okay, so we got a couple of us lived in Pueblo. Pueblo has actually had visits from a handful of the people, the gentlemen who were running for the Democratic ticket, right? They've had visits from the leading Democrats for presidential elections over the last 10, 15 years. They show up in Pueblo. Hey, Pueblo, guess what you will never see again if national popular vote happens? No one's coming. If you're from the state of Wyoming, if you're from the state of Idaho, if you're from Montana, heck, if you're from anywhere in Colorado except for Denver, so if you're on the Western Slope, they are all going to tell you, take a hike. You know why? They won't need you. The beauty of the Electoral College is that someone running for president has to get a sufficient amount of the votes. Remember we talked about those counties and the county numbers? The truth is, now President Trump, appealed to a wider range of Americans. It's why he won the Electoral College. The places that he didn't necessarily appeal the most in were large cities. Houston, New York, LA. Actually, he won Florida, so I can't say Miami. Chicago. You need to understand a president-elect or someone running for president will absolutely be able to ignore large swaths of American people. Just ignore them and only show up Chicago, Milwaukee, name your big city. They'll never have to visit Wyoming again. Whew. Sick of those cowboys anyways. I'm sorry, the Dallas kind, not actual cowboys. So they'll ignore them, and rightfully so, because we've all 270 electoral college votes, and states have said, we think whoever wins the popular vote, despite the fact that that is mainly the result of what happened in a few big cities. Which cities are burning for the most part? Riots, right? Heck, if you are the state of Nevada, here's the truth. If you're the state of Nevada and you live in Las Vegas, you too will never see another presidential candidate. I mean, you'll see Trump again because he's got, a hotel there. But he won't be president by that time. I need you to understand the truth of this and why I believe the Electoral College was an absolute stroke of genius. How those men came up, I can tell you, with all the brain power between Ed and I, we couldn't have come up with that. And Ed's really, really smart. We couldn't have come up with it. It is an absolute stroke of genius. It basically leveled the playing field. But here's what an unbalanced playing field would look like going forward. I mean, of course, Mexico's would not be part of our voting, but New York, Florida, Texas, California, Illinois is in there, pulling a little weight, and so Pennsylvania. But those 6 states are all massive. Remember I said they represented 37% of all votes cast. Those 6 states. Please take a picture, send it to your friends. Don't take a picture of me and send it to your friend. I mean, unless you want to. I'm okay with that. But take a picture of that. Send it to your friends. That is what we would be looking at. Listen, come November, this is going to be on your ballot. Ballots drop in this state on October 9th. We are asking everyone that we can to make sure that you don't mail in your ballot. Don't mail in your ballot. Don't mail in your ballot. All right, just don't mail in your ballot. I'm sorry, did I say don't mail in your ballot? Take your ballot to a polling place. Take your ballot somewhere where you will actually be able to hand it in. Whether you believe there is the possibility, and I don't care, who has seen the postcard from the post office? Who's gotten it? Telling you to do what? And telling you how safe they're going to make sure it is. The post office is telling us how safe sending something through the post office is. You all should laugh at that one because the post office is one of the most poorly run organizations in our country, unfortunately, and Congress just so happens to be in charge of the post office. I mean, not that they're not all brilliant people as well, and especially, if I was worth $30 million, okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't point at anybody in particular. I mean, how do you accrue $30 million being in the U.S. Congress for 33 years or whatever it is? $30 million. It's official. I am running for office. It's official. They can accrue $30 million. So I think, yeah. Anyways, you already got a senile guy. I'm sorry. So again, we are not going to mail in our ballots, right? I want everyone who promises not to mail in their ballot to please stand. Take your ballot to a polling place. Heck, show up at a polling place on Election Day. Please be seated. Do not mail in your ballot. How are we going to vote on Proposition 113? I'm sorry, how are we going to vote? No. I want the people who are watching this online to hear you say, no. And if it comes to a state near you, you too should vote no. It's a travesty. It's a shame that we're here, but this is the avenue in which they've decided to use to circumvent, because the truth is they would never get the Constitution amended. So if you put this in front of the people and explained it and tried to get an amendment to the Constitution of the United States, you would never get it through. So this was the workaround. We'll just choose not to choose. That's the workaround. So with that, I'd like to, let me just ask, since we got a decent sized room here, how many people in the room, and I am not asking you so that you can show up this Saturday, but I'm asking, how many of you in the room have taken part in our Understanding the Constitution class? If you've taken part, stand up. Stand up. And several of these people are actually are gluttons for punishment, and they're gonna come back for more of Ed for the fall. So we kicked that off again this Saturday. We're excited. Probably we're a little too excited because we've already had more than 50 people sign up. It will be our largest single class since 2012. If you want to just show up to be in the peanut gallery and get some laughs, come on through. But you'll learn a lot about, in particular, this subject we're talking about tonight, the Electoral College. I think, again, it is important that we preserve it. The smartest people on the planet could not have come up with this today. I think it is just absolute brilliance that the Founding Fathers in 1778 came up with. It's absolute genius. It is a mathematical marvel that they considered something that actually didn't necessarily exist yet. And there were no really large states. There were no states with 11 million. I can tell you that. There were no states with 11 million people in them. There were none. And they just looked at this and said, for the posterity of the nation, we will put something in place to make sure that every person, this is where every person and every state gets a voice. Now the rancher's vote is important. The farmer's vote is important. The miner's vote is important. The person working at the checkout line in Walmart's vote is important because they cast their vote with their state, and then with one voice, except for 2 states, with one voice, that state says, this is who we have chosen. And they choose to choose. Don't get caught in not choosing to choose. So I'd like to end this part of it. There's a video that is part of what we do in our Constitution class that I think, again, I talked about driving it home. I think this is a perfect example and a perfect kind of explanation of how the Electoral College works. So go ahead and start that video.
There are some people out there pushing what is known as national popular vote. It would get rid of the Electoral College because they say it's just not fair. They argue that in a baseball game, for instance, whoever scores the most runs wins. But in baseball championships, there are a series of games. And to be the champion, you have to win the most games, not just score the most runs. In the World Series, for instance, most of the time, the team that scores the most runs in all 7 games combined also wins the most games, but not always. Take, for instance, the famous World Series of 1960, when the Yankees scored a total of 55 runs and the Pirates scored only 27. Well, even though Mickey Mantle hit 10 home runs, 10 home runs in just 7 games, and had a series batting average of 400, And even though the Yanks were able to run up lopsided scores in games 2, 3, and 6, they only won a total of 3 games. And the Pirates won 4. So when Bill Mazeroski hit that bottom of ninth walk-off home run in Game 7, the Pirates were the champions. It wasn't the first time. The same thing happened to the Yankees in 1957 against the Braves, and it happened again in 1964 against the Cardinals. But don't feel bad for the Yankees because you never feel bad for the Yankees, but also because it goes both ways. The Yankees won the 1962 World Series against the Giants, even though the Giants scored more overall runs. In fact, out of the 260 Major League Baseball playoff series, and that includes the World Series, the League Championships, and the Division Series, the team with the least runs in the series has still managed to win the most games 40 times. That's 15% of the time. 15% of the time, the team with the least runs wins. And that happened as recent as the 2002 and the 2003 World Series, and just last year in the American League Division Series between the Tigers and the Yankees. Now, the simple-minded will run to their mommy crying, "It's not fair, it's not fair." But the thinking American will step back and ask, why is it happening this way? What's the reason for this? Then they will discover that it's because baseball is designed to make sure that the champion isn't a team that did well against just one particular pitcher or in one particular stadium, but the champion has to be able to play well in a variety of situations. Hitting well off of multiple pitchers, playing great defense, being able to not only hit home runs, but bunt and steal bases and win the close games as well as the blowouts. That's what makes a champion. Our founders created an amazing way to accomplish the same thing in our presidential elections. America's president has to appeal to a broad range of Americans from across the fruited plain. It's not enough to be popular in the big cities and run up the score in just 1 or 2 games. You have to also be able to win enough votes in the other stadiums, or states, if you will, in order to win enough games to win the whole championship, or in this case, the presidency. For instance, here you see the map of Bush-Gore in 2000. Obviously, Gore won the big cities. You can see where the blue is on the map. But Bush won the rest of the country, and the rest of the country was a better distribution of the vote. Here we have the 2004 Electoral College results, where you see Bush winning more stadiums, more states, if you will, and some of the big ones as well, and it added up to a total that was more than what Kerry got in 2004. So it was like winning 4-3 in the World Series. In 2008, Barack Obama was able to do the same thing. He won more of the distribution of the votes across the country, and he won more of the actual votes. So this was one of those situations where the person that scored the most runs also won the most games. It's not a perfect system, but it is sure better than any other, and it is much, much better than the national popular vote. The Electoral College has served our nation well, and if Americans are smart, we'll keep the World Series of politics by keeping the Electoral College. Now let's get back.
Play ball!
I said a lot. How many people did that just help? I should have just played the video. No reason for me to be up here. It is a great analogy. And so, listen, like I said, we could go way in the weeds with the Electoral College about the electors and the actual people that cast the votes for the states. We could do all that. But simplicity. The simplistic answer to why to keep the Electoral College, the simple answer is we want our president to appeal to a wider range of Americans. And without it, that is lost. That is lost.